We'll call the meeting to order. That is louder than it was during session. If someone would please close that door back there. Thank you so much. If we would, let's start today on my far left. If you'd introduce yourself, I'll go around, please. Thank you.
Hope Tribble, Director of Fiscal Policy for the Senate Democratic Caucus.
David Nizgotsky, State Senator, District 10, South Bend, and parts of St. Joseph County.
Krista Ricci, Senior Fiscal Analyst for the Senate Republican Caucus.
Ryan Michler, Senate District 9, North Central Indiana.
Jeff Thompson, House District 28, west of here.
Ben Tooley, Director of Fiscal Policy for the House Republicans.
Courtney Everett, Deputy Budget Director.
Lisa Ackelberg, Deputy Budget Director.
Gregory Porter, House District 96, Indianapolis.
Eric Gonzalez, House Democrat, Fiscal Analyst.
Good afternoon. Fadi Kadura, Senate District 30, north side of Indianapolis.
Atlantis Richter, Fiscal Analyst, House Republican Caucus.
Craig Snow, House Rep, District 22, Kosciuszko County.
Chris Garten, State Senate District 45, and also get coffee for Ryan Michler occasionally.
Jordan Lett, Fiscal Analyst, Senate Republican Caucus.
Jessica Harmon, Legislative Services Agency.
Thank you. We have the minutes have been distributed from the April meeting. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes as have been distributed? Representative Porter, you have a motion?
So move.
Is there a second? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? It carries unanimous. A proposed agenda has been distributed to the members of the committee. Are there any amendments to the proposed agenda? Seeing none, the agenda is now placed on the table for discussion. And I believe the first we have here is Department of Transportation. Welcome, and sir, the floor is yours.
Afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Steve McAvoy, NDOT Statewide Facilities Director. We have 7 projects on the agenda today. The Indiana Department of Transportation formally requests funding in the amount of $2,121,079 for the Indianapolis Traffic Management Center projects. Of this amount, $493,579 is additional funds for the TMC Phase 1 and 2 renovation project, $127,500 for the Phase 3 architectural and engineering, and $1.5 million for Phase 3 re-roofing of the building. Additionally, $2.5 million was previously released in October of 2023 for Phase 1, and $2.5 million was previously released in August of 2024 for Phase 2. The building is 21 years old, and many of the existing mechanical, electrical, plumbing systems are at their end of their useful life. In addition, the PVC roof system is original to the building, has developed leaks and needs to be replaced.
Thank you. Any questions? Can you please, sir?
NDOT formally requests $1,650,000 for the architectural and engineering to construct the new Austin subdistrict, unit, salt building, and 2 equipment storage buildings. The subdistrict and unit building will be a new design on a new site in Austin with a focus on cost reduction and efficiency. Included in the fees are subdistrict and unit architectural building design, salt building design, MEP engineering, construction administration, site stormwater engineering, site survey, soil borings, and utility engineering. The existing Madison subdistrict and unit built in 1998 and the existing Scottsburg unit built in 1964 will relocate to the Austin site. Upon completion of the project, those 2 sites will be sold.
Thank you. Any questions? Yes, Representative Garten. Senator Garten, I apologize, sir.
No apology needed.
I could sneeze probably.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So regarding the projects, has there been any collaboration with local governments? I'm just concerned, not concerned, that's a strong word. I'm curious about the collaboration with local units of government, at least with the Scottsburg property in particular, that could be considered prime real estate. I'm just, has there been collaboration with local units in terms of what that, or is that just going to like a free market auction? Or help me understand the transaction.
Yeah, so anytime that we do dispose of a site, it goes through our NDOT real estate department. They would appraise the property.
Sure.
And any governmental entities, would request the property would send notice to us, and then that would be first right of refusal on the property.
Has anybody done that?
Yes, Scottsburg has had interest in it. It is very high level property, as you state, for sure.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any further questions? Can you please? NDOT formally requests funding in the amount of $1,650,349 for the re-roofing of 12 buildings across the state. The roofs on these buildings have reached the end of their useful life. In many cases, the roofs leak and allow water into the buildings. Water infiltration into the buildings could result in structural issues, which would force the closure of the buildings, which in turn would jeopardize NDOT operations. The following unit buildings will have their roofs replaced: Fort Harrison, Fowler, Lebanon, Terre Haute, Monroe, Warsaw, Tipton, Pentown, and Newcastle. The Indianapolis Subdistrict, the Paoli Subdistrict, and the Vincennes traffic buildings will also have roof replacements.
Thank you. Any questions? Continue, please.
NDOT formally requests funding in the amount of $2,210,000 to construct pole barn storage buildings at 13 locations across the state. NDOT invests millions of dollars in equipment and vehicle purchases on an annual basis, and it's important that these items be properly stored. The following units will have pole barns built: Elkhart, Muncie, 65th Street, Crown Point, Winnemac, North Vernon, Versailles, Pentown, Lagodi, Oakland City, and Crane. The Wabash Subdistrict and the Crawfordsville District will also have buildings built. These capital investments will store our plow trucks and equipment, such as loaders and tractors, to keep them out of the weather and extend their life cycle.
Thank you. Any questions? Continue, please.
NDOT formally requests funding in the amount of $944,300 to address general rehab at 7 locations across the state. The following subdistricts will have general rehab and repair work: Columbus, Bloomington, and Tell City. The Terre Haute Subdistrict and Unit, LaPorte Testing, Seymour District, and the Seymour Annex will have general rehab done as well. The general rehab umbrella covers a wide array of projects, including fence repair, HVAC replacements, overhead door replacement, window replacement, and office remodeling. This work is necessary to extend the life cycle of these facilities.
Thank you. Any questions? Continue, please.
NDOT formally requests funding in the amount of $350,000 to install brine buildings at 3 locations. Brine making systems and the buildings housing them are critical to NDOT's winter operations mission, as they produce the brine needed to treat roadways and bridges during winter events. The brine making systems, control boards, and water lines must be housed within a heated building. Brine buildings will be constructed at the Angola Subdistrict, Salem, and New Paris unit buildings.
Thank you. Any questions? Continue, please.
NDOT formally requests funding in the amount of $428,150 for the sanitary sewer extension engineering at the Pigeon Creek Welcome Center on I-69. The Pigeon Creek Welcome Center was recently reconstructed to include a new modern welcome center, a standalone truck parking restroom facility, and added truck parking capacity. The facilities are serviced by an on-site wastewater treatment plant. The existing treatment plant is old and inefficient and requires additional maintenance to meet IDEM and regulatory standards. NDOT has entered into an agreement with the City of Angola for the extension of a private sanitary line to the Welcome Center.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you for presenting.
Thank you.
Next, we have a Department of Natural Resources. Welcome, sir, and you're ready. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, members of the committee. I am Greg Sarles, the interim Deputy Director of the Department of Natural Resources Administrative Bureau. DNR has 4 projects on today's agenda. The first project is DNR is requesting $1 million for the Ferdinand Campground Rehabilitation Phase 2. For those of you that remember Phase 1, that was a comfort station, electric sites, and water and sewer improvements. This adds 36 additional electric campsites, water lines and hydrants, 12 camping cabins, and paving the campground roads. That will increase our revenue, taking our primitive sites that are currently $12 and increasing to electric that will be $30, which will help us tremendously.
Thank you. Any questions? Continue, please.
The second project is a series of forestry campground rehabilitations for $1,801,948. This includes campgrounds at Yellowwood, Clark, and Green Sullivan State Forests. All of those areas are primitive, and this will add 175 campsites with electric, 40 sites at Clark, 60 at Green Sullivan, and 75 at Yellowwood. It will add 75 camper cabins, improve water, campground road improvements, ADA compliance, playgrounds, and comfort stations at Green Sullivan and Yellowwood.
Thank you. Any questions? Continue, please.
The next project is the Clifty Inn Pool Rehabilitation. The Division of State Parks is requesting funding for $1,165,126 to complete the project for the HVAC renovation for the infrastructure and mechanical systems. The completed project will have new ceilings, replacement of all of the drywall with a properly installed vapor barrier. We'll clean and seal the pool deck, reinstall the spa hot tub, and replace all of the lighting and fire protection systems. This repair will make us close for approximately 2 months while that renovation's taking place.
Thank you. Any questions? Continue, please.
Okay. The next project, DNR is requesting $925,542 for Phase 1 of the Brown County Horsemen's Camp. On May 16th, we suffered a tremendous loss due to the tornado that went through. The Horsemen's Campground lost the vast majority of all of their trees, timber, in surrounding area. The comfort station in the campground was the roof was damaged structurally and the rafters. This was originally constructed in 1982, re-roofed in 2017, but with these repairs that will serve us for many years to come. The campground has 118 electric sites and 86 primitive sites and generates about $325,000 per year. Each of the campsites will require leveling, electrical pedestals, replacement wire, and just a tremendous amount of cleanup. Many of you traveled to McCormick's Creek, and it's a very similar site. So,
thank you. Any questions? Thank you for presenting, sir.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Just go ahead, Representative Porter. I apologize.
No, I was a little slow. In regards to McCormick's Creek, we received some correspondence from individuals about the dollars for McCormick Creek. Is that still moving in a positive direction, or what's going on with those dollars? Because I got 3 or 4 emails. I think Senator Cook and a couple other people, Representative Cook.
So the design phase, or the original, I guess, $5 million that was granted to us for the initial repairs, we have completed all of those projects. There's a balance remaining, but we'll have to come back and ask you for reuse.
So there's a balance left of those said dollars, and you're going to return here and ask for a reuse of those dollars that have been allocated to McCormick Creek?
Yes, we'll come.
That's what you're saying?
Yeah, we'll come back and ask for reuse of those funds.
Okay. With these tight fiscal times, do you think it's feasible for us to reallocate those dollars or keep them in a general fund? That's just a question. Just think about it. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you, sir. Next, we have Department of Administration. Welcome, sir, and you ready? The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Matt Kent with the Department of Administration. I've got several projects here before you today. The first one is our annual appropriation for the reserve and replacement dollars for several facilities that are managed by the Indiana Finance Authority. These facilities were originally bonded through the IFA, and a portion of the original bond funded the long-term capital planning of these buildings. Now the bonds have been defeased, we continue to make the R&R payments to fund the short-term and long-term capital needs of those buildings and facilities. The 14 facilities are listed on the agenda. They include 6 buildings here on the Government Center campus or nearby, 5 correctional facilities, and then 3 state hospitals.
Thank you. Representative Porter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Matt, thank you very much for being here. As you look at these 12 facilities, going through and walking through the Government Center South, see there's a lot of work being done over there. Are these projected dollars that may be spent, particularly in North and South Government Center? Are there specific work orders, or is this a concept on drawing down those dollars, or what?
Yes, these dollars will go towards basically a fund over at IFA that holds on to them and builds up a capital reserve for those, so that when large-scale projects come along, we don't come back and ask for a $20 million appropriation to replace a bunch of windows on one of these buildings or an entire HVAC system. Some of the work you're probably seeing at Government Center South is through a capital appropriation that's made directly to IDOA. So there's a delineation. IDOA gets a capital appropriation for certain components that happen on the campus, and then IFA gets one for like the larger scale capital projects. Does that make sense?
Somewhat, yes. So basically, we're going. Instead of the Department of Administration having to come back, you're going to maybe, I'll just say, kind of hold them in a dollar somewhere else in order to utilize them in the future.
Correct. So these
in a big pot of money, and we'll take it as needed for these 12 projects plus.
Right. Like I can tell you what the 2.6 million for Government Center North. Offhand, I couldn't tell you what that's going to go for, because most likely it's going towards a project at a future date.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any further questions? Continue, please, sir.
The next project I have is the McCarty Street warehouse exterior renovation. The warehouse is located on the south side of downtown Indianapolis, and this building is used to store the state's motor pool operations, which includes space for vehicle maintenance and repair. The building also acts as a warehouse for our state and federal surplus operations, which help redistribute state surplus items to other state agencies and local governments. The work on this project will be very similar to what we've seen done on the State House and the State Library lately. That will focus on replacement of seals and expansion joints on the concrete panels, including the doors and window seals as well. We just finished putting a roof on that building, so once this is done, the interior envelope of that building should be secure.
Thank you. Further questions, or any questions? I'm sorry. Can you please?
The next project is behalf on Richmond State Hospital. The Richmond State Hospital is requesting additional funding for the demolition of Building 302 on their campus. Richmond State Hospital came before the committee in June of 2024 to request $1 million to begin the demolition services, which included utility rerouting and hazardous material abatement. With those utilities being rerouted and the abatement underway, we're ready to continue with the demolition process, which will include bringing down that building. It is connected to Building 301, and so this demolition is a little bit more intricate than normal. Once this building is down, we will patch the old connection between those two, and where 302 was will be a green space.
Thank you. Any questions? Continue, please.
The next two projects I have are for the War Memorial. On behalf of the War Memorial, I'm requesting $1.6 million to complete the plaster repair of the shrine room located in the War Memorial building. With the scaffolding now in place to begin the repairs on the water damage ceiling, closer inspection has led to realization that the extent of the damage was far greater than we initially anticipated. The water damage from the now repaired roof not only affected the plaster ceiling, but also some of the structural concrete and clay block in the upper reaches of the room. The contractors will remove and repair the damaged section of plaster and then repaint it to match the aesthetics of the room. They'll also repair and replace any of the structural concrete and clay block.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you for presenting. One more. I'm sorry.
One more, sorry. Final project is, again, on behalf of the War Memorial.
Yeah.
They're requesting $1.6 million to inspect and rehabilitate the bronzework statues and lampposts in Monument Circle and University Park. The statues and bronzeworks at the two locations have gone at least 20 years since they had any sort of maintenance or rewaxing. This project will span over 30 structures, including Lady Liberty at the top of Soldiers and Sailors Monument.
Thank you. Any questions? Now, thank you for presenting.
Thank you.
Next, we have the Adjutant General. I always struggle with pronouncing that. Adjutant General. Thank you. Appreciate that. Sir, you ready? The floor is yours.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, staff. I'm Brigadier General Mike Grunman, the Assistant Adjutant General Army for the Indiana National Guard. General Munich really wishes to be here today, but as I think you all know, he recently suffered a pretty significant family emergency, and he appreciates your thoughts and prayers during this time. Today, I'm requesting funding for 3 projects that all align to the agency's capital improvement plan. We are in roughly year 5 of that 30-year effort to align our facilities in a manner that better supports the needs of a 21st century armory, geographically postures newer facilities to more efficiently respond to state contingencies, and enhances the very limited time available to train in our weekend inactive duty training periods. With an average facility age approaching 60 years, we seek to maintain our public-facing presence throughout Indiana communities and avoid the ever-increasing maintenance costs of our current inventory. Approval of these projects supports the National Guard's mission in real time. Today, the 38th Infantry Division is deployed to Kuwait, and as recent events unfold there, it is the Indiana National Guard that is the operational headquarters representing the national security interests of our country. On the domestic front, our armories have served as launching points for 2 hurricane responses and a deployment to El Paso, Texas, in support of border security over the past year. As technology continues to exponentially evolve, our facilities must be nimble enough to accommodate organization and personnel changes. Within the next year, we will activate an intelligence and electronics warfare battalion as a critical multiplier to today's warfighting requirements. Accompanying this addition to force structure, we are divesting several smaller units, both to right-size our recruiting demographic, but also to holistically ensure that our trained units are available to the governor in times of need. The committee's continued support to the National Guard has been instrumental in our efforts to modernize our facilities in a way that both meets our soldiers' operational needs, but also reduces long-term pressures on the state budget. Every dollar that you invest is matched by the federal government on a rough order of magnitude of 3 to 1. On that note, I'd like to, open an invitation to all of you to come visit some of our armories at some point in time, as your schedules may permit. So my first request is an increase in spending authority from a previous committee authorization to replace the boiler at the Bedford Armory with a modern HVAC system. This request is for $2.4 million. State funding for this project was previously approved for $916,000. This request seeks no further state dollars and represents a $585,000 increase only in federal funding. We anticipate Bedford to be in our Army inventory over the next 30 years.
Thank you. Any questions? Continue, please.
The next request is for authorization to repurpose previously approved funding from a renovation of Hammond Armory and change the project's location to the former South Bend U.S. Army Reserve Center. The dollar amount for this spending authorization is $3.3 million. This project is supported with 75% federal funding. State funding for this project was previously approved at $840,224. Recent force structure changes necessitated we nominate Hammond for divestment. We anticipate the Army will be in the inventory for the next 30 years.
Thank you. Any questions? Continue, please.
Finally, as part of our capital investment strategy, we are requesting $5 million to acquire 80 acres in Memphis, Indiana, for future regional readiness center, similar to the current Hamilton County project. This future readiness center will consolidate 3 existing armories along the I-65 corridor, reducing backlog maintenance, personnel, and utility costs. Title to the property is the first step in a 7 to 9 year military construction project and a prerequisite to compete for the estimated $49 million in federal matching funds associated with building a new readiness center. The armories that we will divest are small and dated facilities that no longer adequately support the unit stationed there. They do not provide enough storage space for equipment and vehicles and are not compliant with the Americans with Disabilities Act, nor do they meet anti-terrorism, force protection, or modern building codes. The new Readiness Center will station approximately 20 full-time soldiers and up to 400 additional soldiers for inactive duty weekend training.
Thank you. Any questions? Representative Porter?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much for being here. Just a couple of point of clarification. I was going to ask about how many acres you're talking about. You did mention that you're talking about 80 acres. Is that 80 acres for the buying land and build a facility? I mean, the $5 million for that is for land and build a facility. Is it $5 million or not?
So no, sir. The $5 million is just for the land procurement.
So we've been down through this road before, through other agencies. So we're looking at buying 80 acres at $5 million. Do we know where that's going to be?
Do I know where the land is?
Chris, yes.
Yes, yeah. We've been negotiating with the seller for the past year.
Okay,
and specific to your question, it's adjacent to I-65. I think it's exit 16 in Memphis, Indiana.
Okay. So the abandoned armories that we have, who's going to maintain them? Is there a cost to maintain them, or will they be demolished?
So they're not abandoned, sir. Currently, they house units. But again, the average age of those is 60 years. They've outlived their usefulness, both from a public-facing and recruiting standpoint. They're not a place where a Generation Z soldier wants to necessarily or be drawn to. Modern equipment is such that armories and facilities built in the 1950s just can't adequately house those things. And then to your further question about who's going to maintain them, once and if a new readiness center is built and we move units into it, we will divest of those legacy armories.
Okay. Probably will occur with the $5 million. It's just a matter of timing right now.
And so the timing piece for us is, the seller is looking to sell the land, and then full stop there. We have to own the land and have title to it to start the military construction process.
So those armories that may potentially become vacant, they would be sold to someone else, or what?
So-
Is there a long-term plan for that?
Yeah, so the preferred plan from the agency is to sell them, and that money would go back into the state budget or the state armory board to reduce budgetary pressures elsewhere. There is a mechanism through the Department of Administration to give them to the municipalities in which they reside.
Okay. And I see there's no federal dollars in this, right?
For the land purchase itself,
Right.
No. But the federal matching that we are expecting from an economic impact is $49 million for the actual building of the facility.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Garten.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So piggybacking off of one of Representative Porter's last questions there, the $49 million, what's the percentage of the overall build out that $49 million covers?
It's a 75% federal match.
Sure. So the state's on the hook for 25% of the bill.
Right, 16. We think.
So for those of you that may not know this, I'm very familiar with Memphis, Indiana. It happens to be located in Clark County, which just happens to be Senate District 45. So I'm very familiar with this piece of dirt in our state. It is probably considered to be prime real estate, certainly in southern Indiana, I would contend. What you may or may not know is we also have an energy crisis, not just in southern Indiana, but as far as I'm concerned, statewide. And so, River Ridge is located in Clark County as well, and there was a recent data center that was built, and Duke Energy asked for somewhere in the ballpark of a 16 or 18% rate increase. And so my question to you, sir, is has anybody looked at the energy consumption that this new facility will require? And has anybody coordinated with Duke or the energy provider in that space? And I'm curious what that consumption will do for ratepayers in Clark County.
So the short answer to your question is yes. I mean, we've done some significant due diligence on the utilities, particularly water,
sure,
and the electricity part of it. I don't have any data with me right now on what the utility cost may be of that, but what I've gotten back from the due diligence piece we have done is the site is suitable and capable of providing the energy and utility needs for the facility.
So I appreciate that, and you're probably not the right person to ask this question to, and I'm happy to further this conversation with you and Duke offline, but my question more is are ratepayers going to be paying for the new facility of the consumption of energy? And that would be a conversation I'd be interested in having, not just with you, probably geared more toward the energy provider. And I want to be fair here very publicly. I'm not even sure that it's Duke in that area. I need to clarify that as well.
Sure, I'd be happy to.
And so to that point, there's just a concern of mine, really statewide. I think we have a lot of things coming online that consume a lot of energy, and this is more often than not on the backs of ratepayers, and so I'm a little sensitive to that right now. But
I'd be happy to engage further with you.
Fully supportive of your efforts and issues that you're addressing here with the new facility. It's much needed. It's much past due, and so appreciate your efforts towards that. So
yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Further questions? Seeing none, thank you, sir.
Thank you for your time.
Next, Indiana State Police. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Whenever you're ready, the floor is yours. Thank you for being here, and thank you for your service.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Michael Wiley. I'm the captain with the Indiana State Police, and with me today is Captain Irv Falk. He is in charge of our radio communications request, our whole project. So what the State Police is requesting is $908,000 to repurpose leftover remaining funds to purchase hardwired radio consoles for our new Evansville facility located in southern Indiana. The new hardwired setup would allow radios to be used during tornadoes or other emergency situations. These new consoles will provide updated technology to help with inter-operations efforts. The existing consoles are becoming outdated and no longer compatible with existing radio consoles.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you, gentlemen, for presenting. Next, we have the Indiana Finance Authority. Good afternoon, and when you're ready, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Jim McGough, the CEO of the Indiana Finance Authority, and I will be taking care of both the Water Infrastructure Assistance Fund and the Residential Housing Assistance Fund. And I'll start with the Water Infrastructure Fund. Total appropriation to date since 2021 has been $100 million into the fund. We have put all of those funds into loans. In fact, we're at $107 million in anticipation of the next distribution to the fund. We have met the requirements of the fund that 40% be required to be provided to communities of 3,200 or less. In fact, we are at 60%. So of the $100 million that we have received, 107 has been pledged to loans, with 61 million going to the small rural customers.
Thank you. Any questions? Representative Porter?
Thank you. Excuse me, thank you. In light of what's going on at the federal level, what do you think the impact of at the administration, current administration in D.C. will have in regards to this this project? Because they're going to could cut a lot of money from this programs.
Yes, sir. The bipartisan infrastructure law at the federal level was a 5-year program, and we're in year 4 of that. So we feel pretty confident that year 5 will be delivered. These funds, because they are state appropriated funds, have enabled us to fill the gaps where the federal funds are not permitted to be used. So this program has been very beneficial to take care of some of those projects that are important or even tied to the projects that are federally funded. But at this point in time, we have no indication that the federal funds would be substantially reduced.
So you have done the calculations in regards to the program?
Pardon me?
You've done the calculations?
At the federal level?
Yeah, yes. SRF, yes.
Yes. At the federal level, our funding, in fact, we're getting ready to look at next state fiscal year's projects, and we have that next state fiscal year is fully funded at the federal level.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Further questions? Continue, please.
Thank you. Switching now to the residential assistance housing. This is a more recent program, effective July 2023. $75 million to date has been appropriated. $77 million has been pledged to loans to produce almost 4,000 units of new housing. The $25 million request will continue that program, and as required under statute, more than 70% of the proceeds have been pledged or put into projects with communities of 50,000 or less.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you for presenting.
Thank you.
I believe now we're ready to move on to university projects. And the first one, I believe, is Ball State. Welcome, and when you're ready, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Becca Rice with Ball State University, and I'm bringing to you in one item a couple of long-awaited facilities that we think are a real home run. They are for our baseball and softball fields, the clubhouses. They're about 6,000 square feet each at $8.8 million. It's possible because some very generous donors, the Shebecks, have committed significant funds for this project. The portion that is not funded by that will be through non-state supported facilities reserves at our institution. Currently, there actually aren't any facilities of this type. There's a bathroom in each of the dugouts, as well as at the softball field in 2014. There's a small changing facility. The rest of those facilities that the baseball and softball teams might need are 1.5 miles away. And so this would be about 6,000 gross square feet each, and they would include a locker room, team meeting area, restrooms, showers, athlete lounge and nutrition areas, equipment room, coach's locker room, satellite physical therapy room, and building support spaces like the mechanical and electrical and plumbing types of systems. With that, happy to take any questions.
Any questions? Thank you. And next we have Purdue University. Welcome. When you're ready, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Kendra Leatherman, Director of Government Relations for Purdue University. The Purdue University Board of Trustees requests authorization to proceed with the use of regional deferred maintenance dollars for the replacement of over 31,000 square feet of roof on the Fitness and Rec Center on our Purdue Northwestern campus. The existing lower roof sections will be removed and replaced with a new roof, and the project will replace a large portion of that roof that was originally installed in 1992, therefore correcting leaking and ongoing maintenance issues.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you for presenting. Next, I believe we have the review items. Office of Administrative Law Review, or Proceedings, I'm sorry. Administrative Law Proceedings. I guess we'll skip them for right now is all we can do. That's right. Professional Licensing Agency. Okay, Linton, okay. Welcome. We're ready. The floor is yours.
Good morning, members of the committee, Mr. Chairman. My name is Nick Hart. I'm here for the Professional Licensing Agency on behalf of the Occupational Therapy Licensing Board. I get that all the time in board meetings. Regarding its interstate compact fee, I'm here with our executive director, Lindsay Heyer. Just as a brief background, we're asking for approval of a fee to implement licensure through the Occupational Licensure Compact that's been approved both by the Occupational Therapy Licensing Committee and the Medical Licensing Board under their rulemaking authority. Indiana became a compact state for occupational licensing or for occupational therapy on July 1st, 2023 via Senate Enrolled Act 73. The Compact Commission charges a fee to individual licensees that wish to obtain a privilege to practice in Indiana, and each compact privilege also charges a state fee. So the fee that was decided upon by the board was a $100 fee, which is to mirror our existing fee for licensure by endorsement, licensure for initial licensure, and it satisfies the requirement of the law. The fee is only applicable to out-of-state licensees that wish to have privilege to practice in Indiana through the compact. There will be no renewal fee. The Compact Commission has decided to require reapplication after 2 years, which meets the same standard of renewal for existing licenses. We just ask that you approve the fee because it culminates the implementation of the law that was passed by the General Assembly in 2023 and also provides another streamlined pathway for occupational therapists to provide services to Indiana residents. The money for this will go exclusively to the general fund, and it will not materially reduce overall revenue for the Occupational Therapy Licensing Board. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you. Next, I believe we have Family and Social Services. Welcome, and when you're ready, the floor is yours.
Lisa, do you want to join me up here, or are you tired of being seen with me? Thanks very much, Mr. Chairman. We have a consequential discussion today. I believe I have a set of slides that have been made available. I guess I have control of this, don't I? So Indiana has many healthcare challenges. During my first tour of duty here, I used to tell Governor Daniels that Hoosiers were buying a Cadillac and getting a Chevy. That wasn't a good deal then, but today they're buying a Cadillac and getting a used Kia. So thanks to your efforts and those of the governor in the last legislative session, it was a truly historic one. You made enormous strides to improve the quality and affordability of healthcare in the state of Indiana. When I have, post-session, I have spent, as you will soon see, a fair amount of time in Washington, D.C., both on Capitol Hill with CMS and with the White House, discussing HIP 3.0. But what they all focus on is the amount of work that you did, all of you did, during the legislative session, and they are incredibly impressed that in 4 months you accomplished all this. So again, on the people in the state of Indiana's behalf, thank you very much. So let's talk a little bit about HIP 3.0. As my wife says, Indiana needs a hip replacement. She makes sure in every meeting that I use that line that I have to footnote her. So that was likely to have work requirements. And we have work requirements in Senate Bill 2, which are similar but not exactly the same to ones which are currently being debated in the big beautiful bill in Washington, D.C. We will have, according to the big beautiful bill, they will have skin in the game. They will be required to pay able-bodied adults will be required to pay a premium payment. What is not in the big beautiful bill is returning the Healthy Indiana plan to being what it was originally intended to be, which is about health. We believe we will be precluded from putting in some important carrots and sticks absent action by the Senate or the House to allow us to make changes. For instance, one of the things we'd like to do is decrease the fee charged each year if people have preventative care, for instance, women having pap smears. The amount of money that we're going to collect isn't that great. And the lifetime savings that will be created from preventative health care, not only for us, but for that individual, far outweigh the cost of those relatively minor financial investments. I would be remiss if we did not discuss the current developments of the big beautiful bill in the Senate Finance Committee, the United States Senate Finance Committee's discussion. As of today, the U.S. Senate version of the big beautiful bill caps provider taxes at 3.5%. If signed into law with this requirement, we would have to significantly alter the HIP program. We frankly would not prospectively be able to afford it. And to that end, if I ask nothing else to our friends in Washington, D.C., and I may actually ask that members of this committee weigh in on this, please give us the needed flexibility to roll back our eligibility if they change the fuel mix for our program. That program was implemented in 2016 with a certain set of promises at the federal level. And we're not asking, and the governor is very clear, he believes that the deficit is a looming risk to the state of Indiana and to the rest of this nation. We are not asking for the continuance of a 6% fee or 6% cap on the provider taxes. What we are asking for is that if the federal government finally decides to get its house in order to act responsibly, that they give us, both the executive and legislative branches of this government, the ability to continue to be effective fiscal stewards. And currently, we would not have that authority under the current law. So let me talk about the stuff that we've done. So as a result of that, we will not be presenting today a preprint. We have prepared a preprint, which is the uses of cash. The distribution to the hospitals is referred to a preprint that we have to file with the federal government. But we have done made two other important tax changes. The first is the development of the managed care assessment fee. The managed care assessment fee was authorized earlier this year. We have submitted the tax waiver to implement that tax and it would prospectively raise approximately $865 million. The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, subsequent to the end of the General Assembly, has made clear to me that they are disinclined to approve that in its current form. They do not, while technically redistributive, they believe that it is structured to just bring additional dollars back to the state of Indiana. They're not wrong, but let's remember, it is no different than what California, what New York, what Illinois, what Michigan, what Ohio, and what Kentucky are currently doing. So if it's good enough for them, it's good enough for us. If it's not good enough for us, it should not be good enough for them. So we in our projections, as we develop the preprint, once we have clarity on whether we're going to 3.5 or whether we're going to stay at 6, we will not be including dollars from the managed care assessment fee. The hospital assessment fee, though, is a different kettle of fish. The CMS has been much more willing to work with us on the hospital assessment fee. As some of you know, we've made several changes in the hospital assessment fee this year. One is to go from net patient days to net patient revenue. Oh, thank you. And the second is to to exempt the county hospitals from the hospital assessment fee and to allow them to put up their own IGT. This will significantly grow the pool of available funds that we have by approximately $600 million. And if you flip to the next page, thank you, Paul, you'll see what those taxes look like. Again, we are currently negotiating this with CMS. The following pages are the three different, are the current, give you a sense of where we are currently, where we would be with the change from net patient revenue to, rather from net patient days to net patient revenue. And the third bar chart is where we would end up if we were to, when we are able to use county IGT in lieu of taxes for the municipal hospitals. Our goal remains to get the largest pool possible for subsequent distribution. And then as we put together that preprint, we are obligated to provide an average commercial rate calculation. And Madam Secretary, if you would just spend a minute kind of going through the rationale on that, if you wouldn't mind.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Thank you for having us today. This actually ties in a little bit to the hospital cost study in terms of what we're looking at. So, Mr. Chairman, this may sort of dovetail or overlap a little bit with that presentation, if it's all right with you. So, from what, doing a little study and working with folks like Secretary Robe from FSSA, I've learned quite a bit about how to look at the costs and how to do the pricing. One of the approaches that's very important to us is looking at the data and requiring different data sets. And in understanding what has happened in past practice with some of the cost analysis, we are looking at multiple data sets and having access to the data rather than just reports. So in general, we're looking at not only pricing that is published, we're also looking at the charges, which are pre-negotiated rates, and then also looking at what is actually paid in terms of claims data. So it is we're also requiring that facilities and material costs, as well as what is paid to the provider, the physician, is also separated out. This helps us with looking at these commercial rates, and because we have multiple cohorts of data, we can easily recognize what may be outliers, what utilization is by procedure code, and also to understand what our levers are so that if we want to bring costs down, we can look at the different data sets and work with them to see how we will actually move the needle. So so we have already moved forward with finding a provider, a contractor, to provide this costing data. And we were very upfront with them in terms of making sure we do have actual access to data that we could use to manipulate the way we would want. The provider comes with a unique set of skills, a combination of hospital and medical background coupled with data scientists. And so that was very appealing to us in looking at how we work that data and actually look at the right amount of existing published data, purchased data. We're looking at national averages. We're also looking at where Indiana sits in that context. We're looking at a bit of an expanded grouping of hospitals from the last. Let me make sure I got my numbers right. I think the previous study included 107 hospitals. We are actually expanding that to about 116 hospitals, both short-term and critical access. So these are all the elements that are going into looking at this costing data and how we use the commercial rate calculation. Did I miss anything? Okay. So I'll pause there if there are any questions.
Any questions? Senator Porter?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Representative Thompson, I'd like to ask a couple of questions to Secretary Rowe, particularly your slide on 6. And I couldn't understand what you said because your optics went down. Are you or are you not moving forward with the Metcalf managed care assessment? Are you moving forward with that, yes or no?
We have submitted the managed care assessment tax waiver to CMS as prescribed by the House of Representatives and the Senate, and I believe that was in House Bill 1004, if I'm not mistaken. So we have submitted that. We are moving forward with it. I however, think I view that it's incumbent on me to accurately reflect what our federal partners, how our federal partners feel about it, and they are not inclined. I don't get the sense that they're inclined to approve this. Now, we will work to get it approved, but ultimately they have submitted the CMS has submitted a set of rules that would prospectively preclude this tax from going into effect. One, and secondly, they have told me because it is a new tax, it will take us approximately a year to work through the issues that surround this tax. So they are essentially buying themselves a year to make our tax and other similar taxes no longer legal.
So that tax would be shifted to the local level, right?
We would just never go into effect.
So that would not affect the property tax increase?
It's nothing to do with property taxes. It's a managed care. It's a tax on managed care. So if you look at
on managed care, okay.
Yeah, it's just on managed. It's just on managed care. It has nothing to do with property taxes.
Okay, all right. Chairman, slide number 10, with the big beautiful bill, the direct payment is being targeted by the big beautiful bill. Have you looked at how the Senate version will impact the direct payment?
We have a preliminary analysis of that. As you might imagine, we were on the phone quite early on Tuesday morning trying to figure out what the effect of that would be. It would reduce our gross and net by a proportional number. So it's not quite half of the half.
Say that again, please. As you smile.
It's not quite half of the half, right? Because the half is here now. The hospital assessment fee is here now, right? At 6%, right? It gets cut down to 3.5%. It's not quite half of the half. So I'll stop saying that because no one's laughing.
So the hole's getting bigger, what'd you say?
I know it's getting bigger.
You digging deeper or what?
It can't get any bigger. So if you draw this line, Representative Porter, if you go to slide number 9 and you take that line and you draw it on the last, if you draw it at like 900 million on the right, so it looks like about like that.
Yes, sir.
Now the problem with that, of course, is that the 28.5% also shrinks, right? So that becomes a fiscal issue for us. This doesn't happen inside the upcoming biennium, but in the out years, it's a fiscal issue for us.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It's marinating right now.
Okay.
Senator Kadora.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, both secretaries, for being here. I appreciate the discussion we had yesterday on the Medicaid Advisory Committee. I'm going to reiterate a few points. So first, I've witnessed the implementation of the Health Indiana Plan 2.0 when I was an employee of FSSA. This model of skin in the game never worked, and we're doubling down on the same policy that never worked. It costs more administratively to ask people to pay few dollars to get their health, and it did not correlate statistically to any improvement in health outcomes. So help me understand, what is the research that we're using with this concept of skin in the game when it didn't work in the first place?
Well, that is frank. We can each have our own opinions about that and find studies that back one the other up. We're going to implement federal law because otherwise we wouldn't get the money. And the federal law is going to say that that individual who is an able-bodied adult has to pay a premium. So while you and I can agree to disagree on this, neither of our opinions are particularly valid because it's being written. The bill is being written in Washington, D.C.
So we're proactively doing something that we potentially anticipate is going to happen in a federal bill that didn't happen yet, correct?
Sorry, I don't think I quite understood this question.
Currently, it's not federal law to mandate the contributions by these individuals to state Medicaid programs. So you're anticipating a future legislation that is currently being proposed or discussed. But that law did not pass yet, so it's not the law of the land. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Great. The second question I raised yesterday, and I raise it again today, is I fully understand and appreciate the concept of fiscal restraining or fiscally being restrained and in control of our budgets. And I would not advocate for any solution that would bust the budget or make the Medicaid program unsustainable in the foreseen future. However, similar to a few years ago when we talked about HIP 2.0, we are still not focusing, at least publicly, I did not receive any information, or on the website of FSSA or any else that I'm aware of, any discussions about health outcomes. And here's what is perplexing to me. So every time we run into a fiscal issue with Medicaid, the answer is shrink the program, potentially going to have wait lists, we're going to add the work requirements, which I'm not opposed to some of those requirements, but we're neglecting the health outcome piece of it. So what happens when we go to the 90s era, and now we have hundreds of thousands of people who are uninsured? Hospital systems will be burdened by that. People are not going to be able to be healthy to work. It's going to impact education. It's going to impact the workforce. So we're being smart as far as controlling expenses on the Medicaid side, but it's like a balloon. When you squeeze it from one side, the problem is going to pop from the other side. So who is taking a lead on thinking through part of the $8 billion Medicaid program? Here are the 5, 10, 15 healthcare drivers that are costing the state the most, and we are strategically designing programs to actually target those to improve the quality of health for these individuals so that we're not running into the same problem over and over and over again. If my question was too lengthy, I summarize by saying, who's working on the health outcomes piece, not only the fiscal piece?
Well, ultimately, we are at the Office of Medicaid Policy and Planning, Senator, but we're the and I did not bring these charts with you and today, and you're welcome. But the one chart looks at the growth of ABA therapy. In 2017, it was $21 million. This year, it will be about $690 million. Attendant care was in 2020, in August of 2021, it was $14 million a month. In July of 2024, it was $85 million a month, right? Those numbers are absurd. The Indiana General Assembly supplied the Office of Medicaid Policy and Planning with $2.1 billion in 2017. Next, in the fiscal year starting a year from now, right, 2027, we have requested and you have granted us $5.2 billion. If you straight line that chart out for another 10 years, it's something like $12 billion. Well, we won't have any money for children to fund children's education or anything else. We'll just be funding Medicaid, right? We have to find a better, a faster, and most importantly, a cheaper way to deliver care. Our current care model is not a sustainable care model, and it's not about diabetes costs. It's not about the cost of it's not about the cost of heart failure. We don't have those expenses exist, but they exist in Medicare once the person, generally speaking, is off of our rolls. Our expense growth is in my opinion, overutilization of these services that we have got to constrain, and we need a cheaper care model. And as soon as we get done with this discussion, right, we will pivot and work exclusively on that, because the 2027 budget session will be here before any of us want it to be. And we're going to have to write a budget for 28 and 29, and that's going to be a difficult one to do, given the growth trajectory.
So I appreciate that, and let me agree with you, actually. I agree with you that Medicaid expenses or expenditures are going up. But the reason that I'm reiterating the point about quality is that problem is not going away. So if the only solution is just control the fiscal, in 10 years from today, as you suggested, we might not have money for the Medicaid program. So my point is, I would expect FSSA, for example, to show up and present a modified quality strategy plan that governs the MCEs and the payment for outcomes, for example.
Look, I have been an advocate of quality for 30 years, right? As Representative Porter knows from my days back at Health and Hospital Corporation. This is an overutilization problem. This is not and maybe to your point, in the longer term, we have overutilization because we had poor quality. But we have to look at that utilization very carefully.
Sure, I appreciate that. And my final comment is in regards to, this is more on our side, the legislators' side and the General Assembly. I will disagree with you on the point. I think, one, before I disagree with you, I want to thank you. You've been always honest with me. Every time we've met, you give me the data and you shared with us. You've been very upfront about it, and I appreciate that, that level of respect and professionalism, because that's what it will allow us collectively to find a solution for the problem. But I'll disagree with you on a couple of things. One, spending money on Medicaid is not taking money away from public education. Last time I checked, we passed a budget of $40+ billion. There are many other line items in the budget that I disagreed with over the last 24 months that could fully fund this problem, from a $1 billion for the IEDC or $1.2 billion to renovate one single facility on the north side of Indiana. But that's the debate that we have on our side of priorities in the budget. The funding in the education, today is not about education, but there's a line item for Medicaid, SNAP, and TANF in the educational funding formula called the complexity index. So actually there's an integration between Medicaid on the educational level and the funding formula and FSSA funding. I think both are extremely important priorities for the state. It shouldn't be a trade-off between both. And finally, this is my comment to the committee and to the public. This is not directed at FSSA. This is directed at the federal government. And the same way that locals are frustrated sometimes with state government, I'm extremely frustrated with the federal government. They are spending like drunken sailors, $37 trillion worth of deficit that debt that we have over the long term. Over $12 trillion in funding global wars over the last 20 years, but we can't fund and feed America's first agenda of feeding children and covering Medicaid and funding our schools. So these folks on the national level, they really need to get their acts together, because they put us in this difficult position that now we have to restrict SNAP and TANF and Medicaid on the most vulnerable Hoosiers, while they are catering to their political interest and trying to fund, priorities that actually do not impact the real life of real Hoosiers living in our state. That's above my pay grade. I know it's above your pay grade, but I'll tell you that it's extremely frustrating to have a federal government that is extremely irresponsible. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Further questions? Continue, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just let me reiterate the need at the federal level, to echo some of Fatty's comments, Senator's comments, that we need flexibility to roll back Medicaid entitlement if it becomes necessary. That is not something that is not our desire, but we need that flexibility, so you can have that flexibility in terms of building prospective budgets. Mr. Chairman, we have a number of state plan amendments to go through as well. Or
if we could, Representative Porter has a question.
Yeah, one follow-up question. And because since you mentioned the Health and Hospital Corporation, which, I spent some time over there now, my question is in regards to IGT. Where would you suggest that we get the IGT from? We had a development situation a few years ago in which the Health and Hospital Corporation will get a line item of 38 and 38. It's gone. So now, I guess, in order to survive as a safety net hospital that works with Indiana University Hospital, largest hospital to teach doctors, how would you think they're going to make it as a hospital? And do we begin to take money from the city, from Marion County, the city, or libraries, or schools, or what, to try to make up in order to provide those services, Mr. Secretary?
Is this a question specifically about the removal of the $38 million from the budget? Or is it more general about?
IGT.
Well, so the IGTs that we're going to.
How would you suggest that happen in regards to that?
Well, they'll get the money back. In terms of their rates, they get the money back. It's no different than how we used to leverage DISH. They get the money back. We're just using their IGT to pull down additional dollars at the federal level.
Which we've been doing it for a long time. Okay, as a partnership. It seems like now that partnership is somewhat being dissolved. Well, that's a philosophical difference between
Right.
you and I, okay?
Good.
And we can go out and fight in the mud or something.
But we're not
you
going to
know?
fight in the mud.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Continue then, please.
I am with that.
Okay, so we have several state plan amendments to approve here. How do you want to go about doing that?
Just if you want to give an overview and talk briefly
Okay,
about them.
right, so I'm just going to go, so there's a memorandum I think you guys all have that looks something like this, right? We'd be appreciative of your approval of the first state plan amendment is the continuing of our RAC audit process. This is a $0 change.
Any questions? Continue, please.
The second is a Medicaid coverage for substance use disorder treatment state plan. Again, a $0 change.
Yes, Senator Cordora?
Thank you. I have one question on this one. So we're aligning with federal regulations on this. So did something replace the MAT or the MAT as far as a service, or they just got rid of it completely?
Candidly, we're aligning our program with that of the federal government so we can continue to pull down federal dollars.
I appreciate it. I support what you're trying to do to align with federal regulations. I was just curious if a program existed called the medication-assisted treatment, and now it's gone. I was just curious if it was replaced with a different program, or they just completely...
We provide Medicaid-assisted treated, we provide MAT therapy in other parts of the agency.
Got it. So you don't, it's not impacting Hoosiers by, great, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
The General Assembly continued to fund out-of-state children's hospitals in the last legislative session, and this is a state plan amendment to implement that law.
Questions? Continue, please.
It's in the budget, zero budget. The next one is the home and community-based waiver amendments. We have several amendments that we're working on. One is to implement cost containment measures. The second is to change the paid relative LRIs to reinforce. We're going to reinforce waiver eligibility. We're going to bolster employment opportunities, comply with federal and state regulation. Again, there is a fairly significant fiscal effect. If you look on the following page on 4, you'll notice savings to the state in the fiscal year of about $17 million.
Representative Porter?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Secretary Robe, and I believe Representative Clear and I came through with this bill. Well, so what are we going to do with attended care? I mean, it's something that's important. It started about over a year ago in regards to individuals receiving services, and then the services were cut back and things like that. So what are we going to do with attended care? That's just one of the questions I have right now.
In Medicaid?
Yes.
Well, most attendant care is now done through the Pathways program, which is a managed care program. Again, as I mentioned earlier, to give you some context here, in 2021, we were spending approximately $14 million a month on attendant care. By April of 2024, we were spending $85 million a month on attendant care. That's a significantly more, well, a growth rate that is really out of control. I would also say the other problem when you do that, Representative, in our opinion, is you create a dependency for that individual, where they were once dealing with 10 to 12 hours of home care. If they are now getting 60 hours of home care, I know what would happen for my mother, my father, and my mother-in-law if they were to receive that level of care. They would lose their independence. And then taking that level of care away from somebody is, candidly, is impossible because they can't live by themselves, right? If you do that. So we're going to very carefully decrease the amount of attendant care and of funding for LRIs that we're funding.
Well, I guess one can debate about the level of independence because they get some help. So we're going to cut to help so you continue to stay independent and decreasing your health being or your existence. So that's what I take from what you said.
Okay,
and I've lived that personally. So I find that very interesting, Mr. Secretary. But we'll move on because it'll be the best interest of us both. I'm very concerned about what is transpiring. There are people out there that need the help in regards to the pathways. I know what the intent is, but I just don't want, and it's going to happen because you and your team have subscribed to that. I believe people, some who's just going to be expendable because of dollars. And that bothers me, being, in healthcare for a long time and seeing it. So, but I'll leave that alone right now because we can live to discuss, and I'm not saying fight, discuss another day. And I'll leave that at this point.
Senator Cordova.
Thank you. I have one question on the implementation of cost containment strategies or measures, the first bullet point. Is the ABA therapy and autism services included? It's not included in that, correct?
No, that's a separate work group.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Other questions?
Are you still surprised to still see me here?
Can you please?
All right, the next piece we have is the Medicaid funding the managed care assessment fee. So we have submitted this, for your knowledge. We've been through that earlier today. And then we've also submitted the Medicaid funding for the maximization of the hospital assessment fee. Again, we had slides and covered that. And lastly, we have a physician-directed payment program that was developed by a group of hospitals, and I believe there are folks here to speak on that who are far more knowledgeable than I. This is something we have agreed to facilitate for a number of hospitals. We currently facilitate this for IU and for Health and Hospital Corporation. A number of other hospitals came to us and said, will you do us the same favor? And it's a zero-cost event for us. And so we simply put a stamp on it, send it in, and they receive additional dollars. So I don't know if anybody's here to talk about that. Yeah. Okay. So, Mr. Chairman, if I'll just excuse my, am I excused?
Yes, you're excused, sir.
Thank you.
If you want to have the presenters, I'll let you determine that. You have Representative Porter.
Before my new best friend leaves, all the waivers we asked for, sincerely, Secretary Rowe, where are they? We approving things that you've already sent. Are there details of these waivers? Can we see a copy of the waivers that went to the federal government, CMS? Or what? I mean, because you're asking us to approve something that you already submitted. And from my perspective, I haven't seen any. Maybe somebody else has seen them, but I haven't seen them.
Eric, did we send it to you?
The waivers.
So we're happy to send you the tax waivers. We sent them because when we sent them.
Sent them where? To CMS, okay.
We sent them to CMS because between the time it would have been my desire not to send them yet until you did this, but we sent them because it takes time for CMS to review these waivers, and they have to be approved before the signing of the big beautiful bill. So we sent them to give CMS as much time as possible to approve our waiver before the big beautiful bill. So let me just hypothetically say that had we not sent in the hospital assessment fee for them to begin to work on, right, we would have lost 18 days of their working on that, and we're now back and forth with them, right? If the bill passes on July 4th and then goes through conference and gets done by July 15th, and we don't have that managed care assessment, that hospital assessment fee approved, we lose that incremental $600 million. So candidly, I didn't think you wanted to lose $600 million.
No, I didn't want to lose $600 million like we lost the money for the kids this summer, eating program. The concept would have been good, Mr. Secretary, just us to know, I mean, that's all, just as respect of, from my perspective, to know what was going on. And, you know, the big, beautiful bill, from a lot of people's perspective, I was in D.C. last week, it's called a big, bad bill, okay? So, but just the concept of including, maybe somebody was included, and it happens quite frequently around here, but I wasn't included. And so I just like to be included to know what's going on, as we don't want to lose several $100 million, period. That's all I have. Just, my case is simple.
Thank you. Questions? We can go ahead with whoever you want next.
All right, I'll excuse myself.
Okay.
For a discussion of you're here for that? Okay.
Actually, while he's coming up, I can tee this up, so come on. Thank you. So you may be asking, why is this on the agenda today? The simple answer is it's out of abundance of prudence and transparency. This was a gray area as to whether or not a presentation to this committee was required, as this is not a waiver, it is not a plan amendment, however, it is a directed payment. It is time sensitive because there are severe penalties that are attached to not making application prior to the big, beautiful bill being enacted. And so those applications have to come through CMS, and then and we assumed also needing to be presented in front of this committee, so we wanted to make sure that that happened. If application is not made, hospitals will be forever barred from application after that point. And so this is something where we have a physicians directed payment program in place today with IU Health and Eskenazi, but we are encouraging all hospitals across Indiana to make application via FSSA through CMS.
Thank you, Lisa. Yeah. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and the committee. I'm Dr. Eric Fish, President and CEO at Schneck Medical Center in Seymour, and as has been stated, I'm here today to update you all on a new physician-directed payment program that would benefit private and county-owned health systems in Indiana, like the existing program Lisa stated that benefits IU Health and Eskenazi. The provider coalition that has been spoken about today is Deaconess Health, Franciscan Alliance, Schneck Medical Center, Beacon Health System, and Powers Health. Systems that include critical access hospitals, rural hospitals, and providers serving underserved populations and underserved geographies. States are required to submit these programs to CMS as stated for review and approval. As also stated, there is a tight timeline for hospitals to submit to CMS, as we can realize the full financial opportunity if this is submitted prior to the date of the federal budget reconciliation bill. Importantly, this proposed physician-directed payment program would not require any state funding. The providers can provide an intergovernmental transfer themselves, like Schneck, or from a public partner for the state share and draw down federal dollars to the state to invest in the provider workforce. Physician-directed payment programs provide supplemental Medicaid reimbursement for professional medical services as opposed to hospital payments that help support the physician and non-physician provider workforce in the state, ensuring access to care for the Medicaid population. Investments resulting from these directed payments, including the focus on quality improvement, benefit all patients that use these health systems. And with the review, I do want to acknowledge and appreciate Secretary Robe's willingness to submit this to CMS on our behalf, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman?
Yes.
I recognize that the average commercial rate was dovetailed into the contracting and the healthcare costs, and I touched upon some of that, but I wanted to make sure I left ample time at your discretion to either go through a more thorough review, hit the wave tops, answer questions, whatever you'd like.
Any questions? You want to give just the highlights and then maybe stop there and let less members have questions? That's okay? Go ahead, please, yes.
Sure, and as I mentioned previously, what we wanted to do is make sure we had multiple cohorts of data that we were using, looking at pricing, charges. Pricing is one element, charges, which was pre-negotiated between provider and insurance, and then finally the claims in terms of what was paid. We will be capturing published data, payer claims data, and private data sets. This will obviously require also stakeholder engagement, so we will, for inpatient, we're looking at inpatient, we're looking at outpatient, and as I mentioned previously, we're very specific about wanting to get a hold of the data. As we stand up with our data scientists and even our use of AI, we want to make sure we have access to this data so that we can do scenario building, we can look at what the levers are, and we can understand where to point in terms of reducing costs. We will be looking at this from a national standpoint for context, but we will be honing in on where Indiana stands. I'm trying to think of, let's see. Make sure I didn't, we also will be breaking out facilities and materials, as currently Indiana is the 6th highest nationally in that area, and we're separating it from professional, where Indiana is the 6th lowest nationally. So again, important to have that data separately, and then if we wish to take averages and so forth, we still have the ability to do that. In your packet, you should have a full deck on the process that the vendor is going to be working on or taking in terms of their approach. And as I mentioned, we're looking at both published data, but they are also going to be acquiring data as well.
Thank you. Any questions? Senator Cordero?
Thank you, Secretary. I assume the goal behind this, I read the research problem statement, which is on the first or second slide. Is this to bring all of the healthcare players to the same understanding of what the actual cost is? Because every session when we have different discussions on hospitals, they refer to different studies and the discussion about whether or not a hospital can charge up to a certain Medicare rate versus hospitals claim that they were at a certain level. I forgot what the percentage was. The Randall study, I think it was. So is that the goal, to have an independent state paid for research to help us come up with more accurate data?
It's also, yes, and in addition to that is to understand the different elements. I have found even in my own looking at what had been done in the past, I had to repeatedly ask the difference between when people are using the pricing, the charges, and what's paid. They're entirely different. And I think to separate those and understand those cohorts and how they work and what's reflected in terms of an individual payment and what providers are reimbursed with, I think that's very important. And so that's why we focused on how to separate that data and get alignment around those definitions.
I appreciate it. Always, a data-driven approach is always helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Garten?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just in response to Senator Cordero, you might recall from back in session, this was language that I actually added into, I believe it was House Bill 1004, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
The conversation, and there was an immense amount of bipartisan support on that bill, which is much appreciated. But, as I recall, the significance around that conversation was simply that we felt like we still, even after 1004 from 2 years ago, don't have real hospital pricing studies. We've had issues on both sides where we feel like either hospitals have been invested financially in the studies, and so we feel like the numbers are skewed, or maybe even the other side too far has been invested in the same studies. I have yet to see folks want to discount RAND and discount some of the other studies, you could quote a study out of UC Berkeley. There's numerous studies that the hospitals don't like. Then there's numerous studies that the hospitals have funded that the other side doesn't like. This is, again, another attempt at what we hope will be digestible numbers that are accurate, but will create some sort of relative baseline within the state of Indiana and how our own hospitals within our own state lines compare to each other. And then hopefully we can take those numbers that are extrapolated from this study that we hope both sides can be bought into and have confidence in the numbers that are produced, and start to really look at policy moving forward from there. So, yeah. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I appreciate your comments, Senator. We are looking at a fresh data source. We're looking at actual claims data. We are going to a deeper level rather than Medicare financial audit statements. And it is Indiana-centric, but we're looking at in terms of where we are from a national context. And in partnering with the Health and Family Services vertical, folks from their teams, including Secretary Robes, but also my data scientists will have access to this data. So we're taking sort of a little bit of a unique approach where we have that balance in place.
Thank you. Further questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Let's go back to the Office of Administrative Law Proceedings and take care of that. I know we skipped that item, and go back and pick that up. So whenever you're ready, ma'am, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I appreciate your flexibility in moving your schedule around just a little bit. My name is Michelle Allen, and I serve as the Director of the Office of Administrative Law Proceedings. And the rule before you is a product of legislation from 2 years ago that moved the hearing of specialized education disputes between parents and schools from DOE over to OALP. With that legislation, it required OALP to create a funding mechanism to fund the role of the hearing officer hearing these disputes. And whereas before, the cost of those hearings were borne by the schools who participated in those disputes, this funding rule would spread out that cost among all schools in Indiana and weight it based on ADM. So there wouldn't be a flat fee, and smaller schools with a less ADM would see a smaller fee. Schools with a larger ADM would see a higher fee. When we ran an initial calculation of what this might look like, we anticipated our funding needs might be maybe $500,000 to support 3 ALJs, transcript fees, hearing costs, and what it came out to per school is about 50 cents per student. So that just gives you a little bit of the scope in terms of what we're looking at with this funding rule, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you for presenting.
Appreciate your time.
I believe next we're ready for the Secretary of State. I missed something.
Yeah, so it's this item.
I missed something there.
Outside of its augmentation request.
Okay.
So maybe Lisa.
Yeah, I made a mistake. We need to go back one. Could we do the outside acts? I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I apologize. Shouldn't take us very long, but I overlooked that in my.
That's all right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. This is an outside acts augmentation request pursuant to House and, the report of fiscal impact of legislation enacted during the 2024 regular session of the Indiana General Assembly. We are requesting a general fund augmentation of $2,550,000 to support the implementation of Senate Enrolled Act 3424 during state fiscal year 2025. This requires that state agencies conduct a comprehensive review of all occupational license and occupational regulations within the agency's jurisdiction by July 1, 2026, and report to the General Assembly findings and recommendations no later than October 2021. The professional licensing agency regulates approximately 2/3 of occupations. Multiple agencies play a role in regulation to ensuring compliance with the law. OMB will supervise a study.
Thank you. Any questions? Again, I apologize for getting out of order.
That's all
there.
right.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Now, the Secretary of State, Secretary Morales, you and your team, welcome. And whenever you're ready, sir, the floor is yours.
Chairman Thompson and Budget Committee members, based on additional oversight language added to House Enroll Act 1001, our office is here today to request augmentation of 4 dedicated funds within the Secretary of State's office: the Electronic and Enhanced Access Fund, Securities Division Enforcement Fund, Securities Restitution Fund, and the Help America Vote Act Fund. Before addressing each of our requests from these funds, I first want to acknowledge that in recognition of the adverse fiscal climate that the state finds itself in, the office has taken significant measures to contribute to efforts to save money. Considering the 5% cuts across the board at the end of the legislative session, in addition to the received directive from the state budget agency calling for a reserve of 5%, the office finds itself working with a general fund that is flat from fiscal year 2022. This is in addition to significant decreases in appropriations for election outreach and election cybersecurity. Our office has made a decision to freeze all but critically necessary new employment positions. We have implemented new requirements under Senate Enroll Act 5 for published bid contracting and open procurement. We are working on the procurement of professional services to establish and monitor contract performance metrics and liquidated damages for non-performance. Finally, we have identified and implemented budget cuts, including ending virtually all public service media contracts and sponsorships. Overall, we have identified approximately $2 million in budget cuts through not extending contracts and negotiating 5% discount on virtually all unexpired contracts. These cuts, along with the fiscal management that has allowed the office to revert more than 3.5% of our general fund appropriation in the last fiscal year, and an estimated over 5% this year, will allow the Secretary of State's office to be flexible and meet the fiscal situation the state is in. Now I will turn it over to Jerry Bonnet, our Deputy Secretary of State and General Counsel, to go into detail about each of our 4 requests.
Thank you, Chairman, committee members. So for our dedicated fund augmentation, at the request of the committee members, the office provided the budget agency with several things: a highly detailed fiscal year 24 and fiscal year 25 historical spending report from each of the funds, a summary of spending report from each fund for fiscal years 21 through 25, a staffing report for the agency for each fund from 2016 through 2025, details on office's IT projects for the past 3 years, information on office contracts from 2023 through 2025, information on the office's recently published requests for proposals and bids on our IT work, and our spend budget for the funds for fiscal year 26. We received questions and responded to those, and we appreciated the questions. So we have 4 items on the agenda. First, the office requests augmentation of $8,196,648 from the Electronic and Enhanced Access Fund for staffing and operations of the Secretary of State Business Service Division and IT departments, which include operations, maintenance, and completion of ongoing improvements for the InBiz IT platform that hosts the Auto Dealer Services Division, Business Services Division, Securities Division, Election Division, public-facing voter registration and campaign finance information applications, and also feeds information to several other state agencies. Of that sum, $2,128,683 is for staffing, and $6,066,821 is for IT operations, the system hosting, support, completion of the IT improvement plans that started in 2023. Questions about that?
Questions, Senator Cordero?
So the request is for this item is 8.196684, is that correct?
Yes.
There's between parentheses at the end where, at the end of that paragraph, it shows that you're anticipating that the estimated fiscal year 26 fund revenue plus end of year fiscal year 25 balance is going to be about 10.6 million.
Correct.
So you're effectively, the 8.1 million is approximately 80% of the $10 million, roughly speaking.
Yes.
What was your historical spend specifically for on this line item? Is the 8.1 in line with the past few years, or this is out of the norm?
Not exactly, because we're in an improvement project. So in 2023, our new chief information officer assessed this group of IT systems. They were in disrepair. They were antiquated legacy software, in danger of failing. So that's when we started. And so we've been on a high spending curve. We're in basically the third phase of this three-phase. We're going to complete these upgrades by the end of this next fiscal year. Then our costs will probably, we anticipate they're going to go down by about $3 million per year. So the $6 million for IT projects this year is a little bit less than the high level as we finish up projects, but we'll be down to about $4 to $5 million as we get into next year, because we're just completing that modernization and improvement.
Appreciate it. Two more questions. Was this one of the no-bid contracts for this IT vendor, or was this, did this contract go through the RFP process?
Well, we provided a list, and I think there were 20 different contracts. Give you the exact number. 21 contracts that involve this whole system. It's got a lot of parts. But during those phases, historically, we were not bidding, but our contracts have been in 6-month and 12-month increments. So actually, virtually all the contracts for the IT development end at the end of this fiscal year, because we don't make typically contracts that extend beyond a fiscal year. So based on Senate Bill 5, we spent weekends in here. We took the time to develop proposals, requests for information, requests for bids on all of the contracts. We have 11 different proposals that are out there. They've been published on our website now for probably nearly a month. We're taking a considerable amount of time talking to new vendors now. So we've embraced the emergency that was declared by Senate Bill 5 to start putting all these contracts out for bid public procurement. So
beginning July of this year, all of these contracts will be up for an RFP process, correct?
They're in there now, yeah.
Okay, great. My final question, the $2.1 million for IT and business service division staffing, is any of this amount going to any salary increases or bonuses to staff?
No.
Or is it purely just to continue to cover the cost and the existing salaries for existing staff?
That's continuing the staffing. Although we're, on that issue, I think we're in line with the governor's plans that we're asking staff to do more work as we get into this next year with less, because we're cutting $2 million out of our operations budget. We're bringing people who work remotely back to work. In our operation, when the economy gets worse, there might be some businesses like a restaurant, a retail store, sales go down, you bring in less people. When the economy is in recession, we have more people calling us for services. We have people trying to start businesses, looking for investment opportunities, which involves the securities division, trying to keep older cars in the market, which involves auto dealer services. So we've had absolutely no less amount of business. So we'll be looking for ways to make sure that we're still fair with employees. If we can meet our budget reductions, which are very aggressive, that'll be something to celebrate. So I don't want to be the one closing the door on making any kind of a salary. We certainly right now, budgets and salary increases have not been in our projections.
I'm not opposed to investing in staff, but the idea is that anything that is abnormal, that's what I would be opposed to.
Yeah.
If it's out of the ordinary, if it does not align with the rest of the state and given the fiscal constraints that we have. Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Mishler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So you said you were putting out an RFP in July. So we're still in fiscal year 25. You're going to put out an RFP in July, so you don't even know what the cost is, and you're already asking us for $6 million. So help me figure that one out.
Well, we provided in the materials estimates for the several different components. So we have some estimates of what we expect these different components to cost. We're like to be less than that. We've been able to negotiate some discounts from vendors. We published the first round of requests for proposal in May, actually, at the end of May. So we're already close to 4 weeks, at least 3 weeks from the time that we put those out. So we'll have time to, some need to go into place sooner than others, but we have quite a number of years of experience. We're also contracting for a consultant who's going to help us to come up with these metrics and these liquidated damages that are now required by Senate Bill 5. So we're going to be, before we make any new contracts, we're going to be building in. Hopefully we'll have a professional contractor, because Senate Bill 5 asks for an independent, expert to make those contract assessments. So it'll be a rush, but we'll be working in the coming weeks and months to try and keep our IT projects on track.
I just think it's a little premature to come in front of us now and ask for it. I just think it's taking the cart before the horse, but I think this is something you should be asking for months down the road. So just my opinion. Thanks.
Senator Garten.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I just want to echo Senator Mishler's comments as well. It seems like augmentation requests are usually requested after the budget's been missed or something, some sort of extraordinary circumstances happen. And so, I too question myself and feel like this is maybe a little premature, but I've got some specific questions that I want to dig into. And Jerry, you might be best geared to answer the first one. So when I looked at the Enhanced Access Fund, it looks like there was about 204 total payments in fiscal year 25, and this is the document you guys provided us. 38 of those, which is about 19%, were, quote, bank returned payment chargebacks. So can you help me understand what that is?
Right, yeah, so the platform is connected to the third-party payment processors who pay for all the, we collect payments for all the different business filings, connected to the state PeopleSoft service as well. So if someone makes a payment to us, in fact, those might have been checks that came through the mail, because we have to deposit and receipt those immediately. So if we get a payment and then the check doesn't clear, then it's got to be charged back. Then, or somehow their credit card, they get it approved, but it don't. So we collect that money through another route, but it shows up as, so it was paying back the financial institution for some revenue they gave the state that then they didn't collect.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that from a clarity standpoint that I understand. So the state was still reimbursed for those charges?
Yeah. Yes,
okay.
Yes.
Because and that's why I'm asking, because the way I see it, we paid out $45,678, if my quick Southern Indiana math is correct, on bank return payback charges. So I just want to make sure I'm hearing you correctly. We paid that out, but we ultimately got reimbursed by the folks that owed us that originally.
Well, they went into collection. We probably revoked the filing or the license if we that money. That's just the way of it as a chargeback, but yes.
Can we verify that? I mean, I would like to know that there is in fact some accountability.
It might be able to give you a better, am I describing that correctly?
You are. We do, when we have a chargeback, if it's a credit card chargeback, we dispute those, and the Business Services Division has a whole process for that. If it's a check, we do send out and try to get the money back and then put it back in and reimburse the state. There's a special account code for that, yes.
Yeah, so.
Sure. Yeah, my main concern is that if somebody, I just don't want taxpayers on the hook for somebody that didn't pay their own bill, right? And if they are, in fact, I just want to make sure they're being held accountable.
Yeah.
That's really what I'm trying to drill down to. Mr. Secretary, I've got a couple questions for you, and then Jerry, I've probably got one more for you, but I'd like to skip over to you if we could. And this is just a very direct question. I just want to give you an opportunity here. So you've recently been scrutinized for travel, for spending. Recently, you've been investigated by the Marion County Election Board. You've been, scrutinized for the vehicle that you drive. Quite frankly, you were one of the only statewide elected officials that didn't attend your own office's budget hearing or budget request this past session. I just wanted to give you an opportunity to respond to these things publicly.
Thank you, Senator. I appreciate the opportunity to respond to that. So first of all, let me be clear. One of the first things that I did when I came in office is focusing on all 92 counties. For Diego Morales, all 92 counties matters. And I believe I'm the only statewide office holder in the history of our state to crisscross all 92 counties in a record time, which is 3 months. What you said, obviously I appreciate that, our friends in the media give me a lot of name ID, name recognition, so I take that. But let me clarify. This is part of my duties. I've been going above and beyond the call of duty. When I had the opportunity to be invited months ago to speak at 2 tech conferences in India, I took on the opportunity to showcase our state. As you know, you serve in the military, I respect the chain of command. In fact, when I served in the United States military, I joined with a green card in my wallet when I was not even a US citizen. That's how much I love this country. So I follow the chain of command, and I reach out to the Senate Appropriations, and I said, I'm committed these dates. I will not be able to be there. I don't know when you will have me scheduled to appear under the Senate Appropriations Committee. I would love to see if I can get an opportunity to testify before or after I reach out. Unfortunately, there was not an opportunity for me to be accommodated, which I need to be respectful to do that. I have given my word to attend these conferences, and I took on that opportunity to showcase our state. Because I believe, not just me as the Secretary of State, the almost 7 million Hoosiers should be ambassadors of our own state. If we want people to talk about Indiana the same way they talk about other states, we all need to be promoting our state every single day, from the radio, from the TV, as a legislator, as a Secretary of State, anybody as a private citizen. So I appreciate that. And why did I do that? Because our office, we're in charge of registering businesses. International companies come to our office. My job is to welcome them. We focus on trademarks, on apostilles. There's a lot of adoptions to other countries. There's businesses trying to go to buy our crops here in Indiana, helping our Hoosier farmers. In fact, I tell everyone that Indiana has the best corn, the best soybean, and we love our bacon. We produce a lot of pork here. So that benefits directly our Hoosier farmers. So everything I do is within my responsibilities, because I want people to talk about Indiana. I want people to know that Indiana is open for business. We are in the top 10, in one of the best businesses to start the business. Where do you start that? In the Secretary of State's office. So I can tell you this, I'm proud to do this, but this is going above and beyond the call of duty of what I've been doing here in the state. And as I said, I hope it helps you understand better why I was not here during that. But at the same time, let me be clear. I'm not the first Secretary of State who has missed one of these. I had a good reason. I invite you to see all the previous Secretaries of State who have missed, testifying before committees. So the focus is, me, myself, Diego Morales, and when it comes to the car, as you said, when I came in office, let me be clear, I put more miles than 2 secretaries of state combined. I did not come in office first and get a new car. I took the existing car and I put more miles, crisscrossing all 92 counties because I'm a grassroots man. I like to go there and listen and hear from our constituents from all 92 counties. So after racking up so many miles, I was advised you already have so many miles. Out of safety, you need to get a new car. Now, obviously, we reach out to the vendors that they are obviously in charge of, working with the state or approved by the state. It was an existing car there, but I'm doing this for safety reasons, not only for me, but for my staff. We're out there day in, day out, just like yesterday. I had a long day. I'm the one who arrives here in the State House between 5 and 5:30 a.m. I hope everyone sees that. Long hours, long days. And yesterday I finished my day in Washington County at the local county fair. We have a booth there. We were there registering, as we continue to register eligible Hoosiers to vote. That's one of my main goals, all over the 92 counties, and passing out our brochures, our materials about elections, business services, securities, auto dealer services. So I believe I have done more. What I encourage the media to tell me, the media should be saying, Secretary Morales, thank you for your hard work. Thank you for promoting our state out there, because I believe I'm doing this. This has become my life. Being Secretary of State for me is not a job. It's a passion, and I'm proud of the work we've been doing. So we will continue to promote Indiana, because you're not going to see me here, obviously, doing the list. I learned from my hardworking parents, specifically from my mom. When we came here to America, knowing zero English, but we came here legally, respecting the rule of law. We came here to give, to contribute, to serve, not to be a burden for this great state and this country. When I saw my mom going to buy those construction boots to work at the factory floor, that's the work ethic that she raised me. And my mom always told me, you need to shoot for excellency, and that's what I'm doing in the Secretary of State's office, and we will continue to do that, Senator.
So I appreciate that. I just want to be on the record as saying you have a vehicle that costs almost twice as much, that is paid by taxpayer dollars, that costs almost twice as much as the average salary of a Hoosier. I think we need to pay attention to optics, and that's not just specific to your office too. So I just want to be on record as stating that. In the past, you've been scrutinized for allegedly prioritizing doing business with individuals and/or companies that have contributed to your campaign. Out of the funds that we've talked about today specifically, because I want to be respectful of the Budget Committee platform, so not outside of these other funds, we can talk about that at some other time. But is there anybody on these expenditure lists that have contributed, or companies that have contributed financially to your campaign?
A lot of people contribute to my campaign, from people who believe on election integrity, from people who believe...
Hold on, Mr. Secretary, respectfully, there's 3 funds on here. That's not a lot of line items. It's a yes or no, and we can identify who they are. I think Indiana Hoosiers deserve to know that. You've been scrutinized for that in the past. I think we both have constituents that it would be in their best interest.
If we have people who donated to my campaign, and I'd be more than gladly to accept their campaign if you want me to be successful.
Out of the 3 funds there's 4 funds, but I don't think one of the funds specific. I think it deals with individuals that wouldn't be in this case, I believe. Out of the 3 funds that we've talked about here, I would like them to be identified.
Maybe I can give part of the answer. In the office, we're not familiar with the campaign finance.
That's why I'm asking the Secretary, Jerry.
Going forward, we're bidding on these contracts, so we're going to be.
And I'm extremely disappointed that it took legislation to get us there. I want to be very honest about that, because that was part of the legislation and language that I worked on specifically.
What I can tell you, Senator, I appreciate the question. As I said, I'm proud that I get support from everyone, but to give you the answer as you requested, we have a couple companies such as MTX or Clean Slate. They have donated to our campaign that they've been working with our office, but they are actually companies with experience. And we specifically, because we've been following, as someone stated, the no-bid contract that has been done for the past 20 years, Exactly. So I'm not doing anything different. We're doing it for the past 20 years. So that's why we were able to go and look for the experts, which these two companies that I just stated with you are the experts on what they do. And I believe they're delivering. They're getting the job done. And in fact, we're saving money by doing all of that. So I'm proud to tell you that we're saving taxpayers money as well by hiring the best of the best in this business.
So to clarify, I'm not suggesting that anybody that contributes to a campaign should be disqualified. This is simply a transparency question. For the sake of transparency, that's why I'm asking.
Yes, and as I said, these couple companies that I shared with you, they have donated, and yes, everything should be transparent.
Okay, thank you. And then just one more question, and Jerry, this might be better geared towards you, and Mr. Secretary, feel free to weigh in if it's better geared towards you as well. Back to the staffing and the payroll. Again, and this is data your office provided us from the fiscal year 16 to 25. So, and Mr. Secretary, I apologize. I think you were elected in 22. Okay. So if I go back to fiscal year 22, the number of employees at the Secretary of State's office at that point in time was 46. It's currently 80. That's a 91% increase in employees, which also equals a 38% increase in the payroll. So we started out the presentation saying that we're doing more with less. And I'm trying to reconcile that comment with the increase in not only payroll and benefits, but the 91% increase in employees. When we look at other agencies, obviously, we're under budget constraints. When we look at other agencies, they're downsizing. And so as the fiscal body, of the House and the Senate, what should we expect out of the Secretary of State's office in terms of these additional increases moving forward?
Okay, well, first, when we were preparing that report, and we've discussed this with the budget agency, but we haven't quite completely resolved it. We got some numbers, historical staff numbers from Transparency Portal, some from State Personnel Department, and some from the PeopleSoft system. Those historical numbers are low, but there are more employees now than there were. The historical numbers were probably closer to around 80.
So I can only see back to 2016 on the data you provided. It was 62 back in 2016. So I don't know how far back you're talking, but again, I'm just looking at the snapshot that was provided. So,
but I will explain from that era. The Secretary of State's office had one employee working on elections. They worked on the HAVA grants because we were helping counties with voting machines. Since that time, the Secretary of State's become involved in certifying electronic poll books. We oversee the post-election risk limiting audits. We oversee a lot of things that VSTOP does. So we have we entered this whole era of cybersecurity where we oversee the statewide election cybersecurity program that manages the SVRS network that all the counties use. We're totally responsible for that. We have a whole election security team on that. So we have more people in elections. In those days, we had one IT guy that somehow managed to run this. Now we have an IT department. There was a period where a lot of the IT was outsourced. And we paid very large amounts of money to these outside vendors to come in and run the IT, like $500,000, and they'd provide one person. So we've kind of gotten rid of that. We have an internal staff that really, and we're developing software that helps us run the program instead of relying on those vendors. We used to have one bookkeeper. Now I've got one controller and two accountants. We have every session. It seems like we have more financial reporting. We certainly, as a result of this session, we've spent a tremendous amount of time. Now we're looking at quarterly and monthly budgets and reporting with the budget. So, it takes more people. Our contracting now, the bidding process is great, but it takes quite a bit of time to then take something and pick it apart and develop those detailed specifications, advertise it, talk to all the different vendors who have all the sort of questions, and then we have to manage it. So we're not having less work to do. We're trying to do more with less. And staff are not happy about that, but it's going to be a challenge. Hopefully with the IT improvements, we'll start to be able to again lower, it's more likely we'll lower the cost of outside contractors than the number of staff. We have 2 election years coming up. general election next year and then municipal elections following year. So just have a lot to do. This last session, we have additional work because we're having to develop an IT system to record ownership of healthcare companies, foreign ownership of media companies, companies that have been involved in fraud filings. We have to figure out how to get that information, remove that information. I'm leaving a few things out, but we always end up with more things to do after each session. So, yeah.
So Jerry, my understanding is a lot of the programs you just named, a lot of them are funded through federal money as well, correct? A lot of the programs you just mentioned that the Secretary of State's office is administering, a lot of those are funded through federal grant dollars. Is that correct?
No.
Okay.
The grant is the Help America Vote Act. One exception was there was some CARES Act money that a former secretary, again, I believe it was a $10 million one-time to upgrade voting machines to have the paper trail. But other than that, we don't know from year to year whether there will be a Help America Vote Act grant. There have been years when there was none. They used to be $4 or $5 million. Lately, it was less than $2 million. Next year,
is that an annual grant, or is it?
Well, they're not annual. They depend on the federal budget each time around. I think we're expecting less.
272,000.
200,000 for next year, so it's not going to be a significant amount. We will get to the HAVA grants that we have a history of that, but our policy has really been their local election improvement. It's for election security and local election improvement, and we've pushed more than 90% of it out to the counties. We've let them have it for their local election improvement.
So just last question, Mr. Chair, if I may, and Jerry, just piggyback off the first part of that question. So what can we, the fiscal body, expect out of the Secretary of State's office? Because in 22, there was 46 employees. In fiscal year 23, that increased to 69. In 24, that jumped to 81. And then as of 5/30 of fiscal year 25, that's up to 88. Are we going to continue to see those types of increases year over year?
I don't believe we will, because our IT systems are making it easier for people to do filings, online and self-service, and now we're using AI tools, again, to help people. We advertise to draw people to the website because they can do their filing, they can find the information. We have millions of records now you can just look up immediately. When we get a filing in the mail on paper, we lose a lot of money because somebody's got to transcribe that information. We can't immediately share it with Department of Revenue, Workforce Development, Professional Licensing. There's a lot of things that are hard to do. When someone comes to the office, we got to have people to talk to them, and that takes money too. We use a call center. When people have to go to the call center, that costs $5 and then so much a minute. So we're trying to use tools to lower that. But I think that the trend in technology is to be able to run the office, do all the things that we're required to do without as many human beings.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Cordova.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to refrain, initially when I asked my questions, I focused on the fiscal impact, and I didn't want to ask any other question till the end to allow the committee to go over the details, but I appreciate Senator Garton's questioning, and I don't want to repeat the same stuff at the end, so I'm going to just say it now. So, Mr. Secretary, this is directed to you personally. You mentioned first, your hard work as an immigrant. It happens that I'm an immigrant too, who came to this country who did not speak English. So I do understand hard work, professionalism, and I do understand what it takes to be a public servant. Missing the budget meeting is what led to more scrutiny by the General Assembly. The fact that previous secretaries of state did not show up in the past is not the golden standard that we hold ourselves to. Low performance by previous secretaries of state should not be the bar to compare ourselves to. The fact that you're traveling overseas in your capacity as a Secretary of State, not United States Secretary of State, not the Secretary of State of IEDC, but mixing pleasure or personal and business at a time of state official budget meetings is extremely disappointing. I think in most professional places, if you miss one of the most important meetings, whether it's a job interview or your budget that's going to impact your staff and the mission of your office, it's an easy judgment call. I don't care if it was scheduled, the conference was scheduled 5 months ago, I'm sorry, I cancel. Then things got worse from there. Some individuals that you're contracted with, that orchestrate some of the relationships in India, had ties with the IEDC, are promoting on their social media that they are selling business visas for folks. It complicated things. Then the vehicle thing came about. Then in that budget meeting that you missed, we had questions about hiring family members in your office. We talked about $15,000 bonuses to some individuals that are related to you, or maybe one person specifically. Those issues, when you put them together, it becomes extremely clear that your office is not being led transparently with accountability or professionalism. In our personal lives, I would have extended grace because we all do mistakes in our personal lives. We're not perfect. But my speech to you, I'm not the media. I'm not saying it because I'm a politician or because I'm a Democrat who's trying to take a shot at a Republican. I hold myself to a high standard too. And if I missed my meetings and committees, I think the public and the media and everybody else has every right to criticize me. But I didn't want you to hear from anybody else that I said something about you. I want you to hear directly from me. I'm disappointed in your leadership. I'm disappointed in the way that you're leading your office. And I'm disappointed on behalf of so many Hoosiers, Republicans, conservatives, and Democrats, and regular Hoosiers who went on social media to say, that's not what our statewide officials should be behaving or acting this way. So with decisions and actions come consequences, and you made those decisions. Nobody else made those decisions. And I felt extremely bad to be grilling your staff, asking them the questions that their boss should be answering. So my appeal to you, from a place of love to our state and from a place of love for our citizens, please, for the next 2 years, well, 2026 is the elections, I think. For the next, whatever, 15 months or 16 months, or please do better for the state of Indiana. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Senator. I appreciate your feedback on that, but let me clarify. We have never used taxpayers' money, and I will never use any taxpayers' money to any of my travels. As I said, I appreciate your feedback, but I hope you will tell everyone as well that I'm the one crisscrossing the state. I'm the one in your district all the time. I'm the one arriving here between 5 and 5:30. I don't see anybody else. I'm going above and beyond the call of duty. That's the work ethic that you said. And yes, I appreciate you saying about the committee meeting. But as I said, people just look at one and I get judged on everything. What about the rest that I'm doing? So I will not apologize to anyone because my work ethic is unmatched, and I know no one will outwork me. And people can say what they say about me, but my work ethic is unmatched. I respect your feedback, but I can tell you this, I'm going above and beyond the call of duty, and we will continue to do that. I'm always going to do what's right for the state, and this is right for the state. Again, it's not that I'm doing something outside. We register businesses. We welcome businesses. Just yesterday, we had people coming, needing some help, missionaries going to countries like Peru or other countries. They need us to help them, to connect them with other countries. I believe I'm in this office for such a time as this, like in the book of Esther says, because I'm utilizing my skills, my talents, the gifts that God gave me to help Indiana, to help our state. So again, it's unfortunate that I get judged because of couple things here, but what about the rest? I invite people to, to share about it. It's okay, I take that you can criticize me, but I hope people can at least expose all the good things that we're doing in the Secretary of State's office.
I appreciate, I don't want to belabor this, I'll conclude with 2 thoughts. First, I'm not sure if that's common among legislators, but in my 4 years in the General Assembly, maybe we get 90 to 95% of all communication that is criticism, and less than 5% thanking us for the things that we do. It's the nature of being a public servant. It's a human nature that you get criticized for the things that don't go well. And we all live through this. But we're going to agree to disagree on the point of going above and beyond duty. we have to meet basic duty first, the job function first, before we go above and beyond. To me, it's not just that one thing. All of these things, the approach to all of these things from the beginning seems to not be very upfront, I don't want to use words that might come across as harsh, but it was not transparent. I don't want to say there was deception, there lack of information, even the travel, promoting other states. Have you coordinated with the governor? Have you coordinated with IEDC? I understand you're elected by the people and you have your own separate office, but if I'm to give you the benefit of the doubt of this whole thing, I would call it, even though it was not paid for the taxpayers, I want to know who paid for it.
I pay for it.
Because I want to understand what are the relationship, as Senator Garten asked, between the campaign, your office, and all of these complicated relationships to be sure that we are transparent with the public. So again, we'll agree to disagree. And again, this is not, for me, I'm not speaking in my personal capacity as a person, judging you as a person. I'm speaking as an elected official to an elected official on behalf of my constituents and the people that I heard from who are extremely disappointed. And I just hope, campaigns and elections do what they do separately. I'll defer that to the campaign side. But for the next 16 some months, please, there's an opportunity to continue to serve the state with a higher level of transparency and performance, focusing internally on the issues that matter most to our Hoosiers. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. We'll continue on then with your presentation. Please.
We have our other items.
Yes, please continue on, yes.
The second item then, the office requests augmentation of up to $500,000 subject to availability and 5% retention from the Securities Enforcement Fund for completion of the investigation and case management IT application, web platform for financial literacy and investor education programs, which is planned but deferred to fiscal year 2027.
Continue, please.
Okay. Third item, the office requests augmentation of up to $900,000 subject to availability and 5% retention from the Securities Restitution Fund for review and payment of qualified loss recovery claims for victims of violations of the Indiana Securities Act.
Thank you. Questions? Senator Garten.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jerry, just a point of clarification. In the handout that, again, you guys provided us, I think that augmentation amount was $800,000. I thought I just heard you say up to $900,000. So where's the discrepancy?
And we have that subject to availability. We anticipate some flow of settlement and money into the Securities Act and in the Securities Enforcement and Restitution. So subject to availability, hopefully to avoid having to come here every quarter or every, not more frequently than 6 months. If the money is there and if we have the claims, we can only pay what we have in the fund, and we pay the claims that qualify for that. So the augmentation process is new for us. Usually the best we knew about it was in our recount commission. We would conduct the proceeding, and then afterward we'd ask for augmentation for how much we spent. Here we don't know for sure what we'll spend. If we have no claims, we won't draw any money from that. We're wanting the budget agency to have the authority to provide the money if we have claims.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Reverend Porter.
Just a point of clarification. So we talked about $800,000 to $900,000. This is security restoration. So that means these are people who have been defrauded. And what happens is that even though maybe $100,000 more, these people have been defrauded and getting their money back pennies on a dollar. So I don't have no problem with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Continue, please.
Okay. And finally, the office requests augmentation and release of up to $750,000 subject to availability and 5% retention from the Help America Vote Act Election Security and Improvement Grant Fund. $500,000 of that is for reimbursement of grants that were made to counties for the 2024 election. We haven't received their reimbursement request yet. The $250,000 if it's available, will be for 2026 election security improvement projects that qualify for the grant spending. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions? Senator Garten.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jerry, on the Help America Vote Act, on these funds in particular, what would the reimbursements go for? Give me some examples of some of the things the counties would be reimbursed for from an expenditure standpoint.
Additional voting equipment, electronic poll books. Sometimes it's special printers to print tabulated information. Some counties have their own local voter outreach, voter registration programs. There are the grant has a list of what the qualified expenses are. They include accessibility. They may need ramps, or they may need some equipment upgrades for people with different disabilities. Some counties needed some equipment for print disabled people so they could read the screens and do some things. So it's generally equipment, it's security, election security. We had some requests for physical security, crowd barriers, some panic alarm type equipment, again, voting equipment. Those are the type of things.
So on the 2024 fund payments, again, I'm looking at what your office provided us, $100,000 to the Indiana Broadcasters Association. Is that a membership, or what is that?
No, that was for public service ads for, across the whole state, for, remind people when voter registration was about to end, remind people when election day, vote in English and Spanish. So that was for actually, it's a discounted advertising program because the association takes ad time from all of its members in lieu of their membership, and then they run those on a time available basis. So it's a lot cheaper than trying to buy the prime time. But that's typical for the office to spend. We have appropriation for voter outreach. Sure. We'll typically spend $700,000 across the state to get people out to vote.
And Mr. Chair, just one more question. I've seen Baker Tilly pop up on here multiple times. What role do they play in this space in particular?
Baker Tilly is a accounting and project management company. They have long experience. They actually helped the state build its statewide voter registration system going back almost 20 years. So now they're the project managers for it's called the FireEye cybersecurity, the election network security program. All the counties that use the statewide voter registration system are in a network. And so they manage there are 3 different vendors providing services to provide that security system. They have weekly calls with the vendors.
Sure.
They field calls from counties that have a technical problem. So they're the project management for that election security program.
Sure. And this isn't specific to your office. I've noticed across a lot of our agencies that the Baker Tilly name seems to be getting more and more of Hoosier taxpayer dollars. Again, this isn't specific to your office. And so, just in the future, I think it might be wise to figure out. I mean, I even think back to the deliberations on tax reform that we did this past session. A lot of our local municipalities have retained Baker Tilly to basically put them in a position to try to argue with us on policy. And I just think that's interesting that taxpayer dollars are funding some of that. And so, it seems like I even read a story recently that there was north of $1 billion or more of an investment from a hedge fund company in Baker Tilly as well, which I find interesting because I don't think hedge fund companies generally invest in companies like that. And it does seem like most of their business and profits come from taxpayer dollars. Again, not specific to the Secretary of State's office. So I just find it interesting when I see them continually pop up more and more and more across agencies and different offices. That's why I ask.
They are not a new vendor. They do have a long history.
No, I'm aware.
And they have a small team that focuses on these election issues that the election division works with too. So, but that's a point we'll take into.
Understand. No, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions? Anything else from Mr. Secretary? Do you have?
Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Well, we're at that time where we have a proposed agenda that's been placed on the table. Are there any motions to remove any items from the proposed agenda? Seeing none, Is there a motion to adopt the agenda that has been placed on the table?
Move that we adopt the agenda.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion on that proposed agenda? Yes, Senator Cadora?
Thank you. I have a general question. I'm not sure if this is the time. I'm looking at the combined surplus document. The augmentation for the Secretary of State does not impact general fund. So I just want to confirm that's probably the reason why it's not included here, correct? Because all of them are dedicated funds. Great. The second question, the outside fiscal for OMB, the $2.5 million, it indicated that it is out of general funds. When I look at the combined statement, well, one, is it going to be in this fiscal year, or is it before July 1st, or is it next year? And second, when I look at the combined balances statement, the only thing that I see for OMB is the $7 million in fiscal year 2026, which does not match with the $2.5 million. So I just want to get clarity on where's that on the, or is it because it's not approved yet, it's not reflected?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Yeah, Senator, I'm happy to answer that question. So the augmentation is in the 2024 regular session outside acts. It was scored at 7.5 million, I think. So it's coming in lower than that, just based off estimates. It will be an expense incurred in the next fiscal year, though.
In 2026.
In 2026. So it's part of that. It'll just kind of carry forward as an expense on that side.
So is it part of the $7 million line item that shows OMB augmentation request? And I'm looking at, in 2026, not sure if you see it.
I think I have, I don't know if I have it.
Right over here, $7 million in 2026.
Sorry.
Is that part of it?
No, that's separate.
That's separate?
Yep.
So once it's approved today, then it will be reflected in the
It'll
future
reflect it, yep.
updated combined statement?
Correct.
Great. Thank you,
Absolutely.
Mr. Chair.
Representative Porter?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know we have a motion on the floor waiting on a vote. However, I would like to reiterate the need for us to get the waiver documents from Secretary Rowe. So many times we've asked for information here, it never shows up. And the administrative branch thinks we have amnesia. We forget about it 3 months later. So I'm asking again, publicly, for the waiver documents for what they've asked for to CMS. Also, I'd like to consider what's transpiring with the Indiana School for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing and Visually Impaired, what's going on in regards to budget cuts for those two schools, and what is happening with those educators, what they're doing in the classroom, even though it's summer. I think that's important for us to know the real reason behind these cuts and what transpired with these cuts that we are doing. And I'd like to have someone come in, and I get information, but like to have some information that is disseminated among the Budget Committee and staff. If so, Budget Committee want to hear it, I do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Further discussion? We have a motion before us to adopt the agenda as presented. All signifying in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Thank you. Well, I believe we have one item left today, and that is, as you know, at the beginning of a new biennium, we have a new chairman of the State Budget Committee, and I would like to propose that Senator Ryan Mishler become the new State Budget Committee chairman effective upon adjournment today. So he's not yet, just effective upon adjournment. Is there a motion and a second? Is there any discussion on having Senator Mishler as the new chairman? I will say before we vote, thank you for all of the efforts, committee members, that you have helped me with. I've learned a lot, a lot more to learn. It's been an interesting experience. And so again, thank you to all of you for all your help. Thank you. And so with that, Representative Porter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I just want to thank you for your leadership in regards to the Budget Committee. It's lifelong learning in regards to being the chair of this committee, lifelong learning not being the chair of this committee. But you've done a great job, and I appreciate it. And I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to participate at some significant level from time to time. I appreciate you sincerely. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Porter. Thank you. Any other comments? Yes, Senator Skoski.
Yes, Mr. Chair, in the short time I've had the pleasure of serving on the Budget Committee, it has been a pleasure working with you. You are a very fair statesman. In the 19 years since I've known you since in the legislature, you've been the same way. So I do also wish to express my appreciation.
Thank you very much. Senator Garten.
Mr. Chair, I just want to confirm there was a second for the motion for Senator Michelin.
Yes, there was. I mean,
can I know who it was? I'm just curious who was on the record for that. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
My fellow senators. Any other comments? All in favor of the motion to have Senator Missler become the new state budget chair, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? It carries unanimous. So
I abstain.
You abstain. So with that again, pardon me? I'm not sure. That's up to the new chairman. He's not the chairman yet now. We have to adjourn first. It's effective on adjournment. So, So with that, thank you so much. October. With that, we will stand adjourned. Thank you.